Level Up Fridays, where we take it a notch higher. But you might have noticed that one of our trio was not in the studio this morning. Mr. Fred Indimuli, as we mentioned earlier, is in Kwale County. The Council of Governors induction has been taking place, and he is down there to give us an update. Fred, if you can hear me, good morning, first of all, and maybe you can just go ahead and tell us what it is that is going on there this morning. And of course, we'll be back with more here on Power Breakfast. DJ Roy T-Boy will hang around, but for now we toss it over to Fred Indimuli.
Yes, indeed. Good morning and welcome. You're still watching Power Breakfast. This time around, we're coming to you live from the Diani Reef Resort in Diani, South Coast, Kwale County, where the induction conference for governors and their deputies is taking place. This is the second day that this conference is underway. Yesterday, President Uhuru Kenyatta actually opened the very first official session of this induction. Today, we're going to have more sessions. It is a very interesting day for this particular session because there could be an election for the chairperson of the Council of Governors. Joice, the Turkana governor, is the current chairperson. Today we could get a new chairperson, or he could be retained, plus a new deputy in that position. We will be getting to understand a lot more from my panelists this morning. We're privileged to have next to me Joice Laboso, Governor, Bomet County, county number 036. Karibu sana.
Thank you very much, Fred.
And next
Good morning.
Next to Governor Laboso, we have Governor Muthomi Njuiki from Tarakanithe County. Now, incidentally, both of them have been members of Parliament, members of the National Assembly. You've only been governors for about 2 months or so. Yes. Another new governor who joins us, Francis Kimemia, Governor Nyandarua County. Karibu sana.
Good morning, everybody.
Yes. Now, all three of them are new governors. You've been governors in that position, county bosses for the last 2 months or so. Yes, it is a great change from what you've been having, from what you've been doing previously. Deputy Speaker, Member of Parliament, and yourself. Bwana Kimemia has been a very senior official in government. But now, how different is this feeling of being a county boss as compared to what you were doing previously?
Thank you, Fred. Yes, it's very different. Of course, Parliament is a very sort of controlled environment where everything is sort of choreographed, if I may put it that way. But here you find yourself on your own, in charge, having to, you know, manage and supervise very large workforce, and for me, maybe for Kimemia it's easier, but you know, working in the civil, you know, this is the civil servants, yes. Dealing with the civil servants. I've only been a legislator, and before that, of course, I was a lecturer. So it's a new experience, but of course, very exciting, and so with its own challenges. Yes. Yeah.
From Member of Parliament representing Chuka Igambangombe constituency to now running the county, it must be very different, Bwana Njuiki.
Thank you, Fred. First of all, I have to really appreciate the weather, because Mombasa is normally very hot, but today it's a bit cool. And this morning I am very privileged to be seated here to be representing county number 13 in Kenya, which of course is one of the smallest counties in this country. And I want to agree with my colleagues that Parliament and civil service, where you have bosses, is totally different from what you have at the moment here. Because previously in the other job, I used to implement people's policies that are made. My work was just to ensure that I have them implemented and supervised. Here, you are in charge of formulating policies, having them implemented, and you have to take both the successes and the blames in equal measures. Yeah. So it's a very challenging environment,
because now the
you're always
buck
on your toes
at your desk.
Yes, definitely.
Yes. But for Bwana Kimemia, probably it was a more natural transition. You've run the entire civil service. You were head of public service for a long time. Running a government at the county level probably came very naturally for you, as opposed to your two colleagues.
No, I can assure you it is the most complicated thing to do. That may have been the assumption in the beginning, but once you are used to giving those big ideas or directives to the public service, and then all of a sudden you find yourself at the heat or at the center of everything. Everybody expects you to provide water, provide medicine, provide roads, provide power, and you have nobody else to look at.
Yes.
You really have to provide it. You have to go to the budget, and you have to also know what
Plus
the
you
people.
promised a lot while you're campaigning, I'm sure.
We promised a lot, and you have to deliver. We have been busy preparing the CIDPs and making sure that people participate in the CIDPs. But I think for me, the joy has been that we delivered services to the entire country, and we reached, you may call, even though not retirement age, almost retirement age. So for you to go back and give to your people, give to those who brought you up, those who educated you, your parents, your brothers and sisters and neighbors and so on. I think that is the best. When I say brothers, I mean everybody in Nyandarua County, my people. Then I think that becomes very interesting. That if you wake up thinking Nyandarua and you sleep thinking Nyandarua and you wake up thinking Nyandarua. Before then it was Kenya.
Yes.
Although we still want to support the country.
Okay.
We don't want to become just local leaders. We also want to support the national interests.
Okay.
So
incidentally, the three of you are among the 25 new governors that we have. The rest at least are serving their second term. This induction conference is more important to you because now it is your orientation. It's like when you join college or you join high school and you're being taken around how we do things at the Council of Governors and stuff like that. The first session was yesterday. Today something else is happening. What exactly is the agenda of this conference?
I think, like you have just said, it is an induction for, of course, everybody, but mainly for us who are new to the Council of Governors. We, like the whole of yesterday, we went through, topics around, intergovernmental relations. How is it that the national government relates with the county government? We went through human resource, challenges, and we had presentations from very, very, very eminent persons, who are dealing with these things. So for us, it was, it's really like, especially the areas of how is it that the national relates with the county, because I'm sure you remember in the last dispensation, there was a lot of acrimony.
Yes.
But it was also, I must say now in retrospect, very good, because I think it was necessary for the counties, or at least for the county governments, to be felt, to start having their own identity, to be felt that they were, I knew it was a new introduction into the country, and devolution had only just started. So I think it was, they flexed their muscles a little bit, and actually managed to form several bodies, that can, sort of manage the relationship between. You have that intergovernmental relations technical committee. You have the budget and economic, committee chaired by the deputy president. So you have the Council of Governors, where we have our own chair. You have the summit that is chaired by the president. So all these different bodies really play one role or another, around how the national government relates with the county government.
Yes. Now, when it comes to legislators, and you've been in Parliament, you're among the biggest critics of governors and county governments and how they run their businesses. I know your colleagues at the Senate back then didn't have a very good relationship with the governors, but even you members of the National Assembly back then also had quite a lot of criticism towards county governments. Now that you are in that position, what has changed?
Well, I don't say much has changed. From what I saw yesterday, Fred, I realized that in the Kenyan government, where the ministry, where kimemia is coming from, we have a lot of theoretical situations where we are people who have a lot of policy papers in documents, filing cabinet, they're there, very many of them. But having been at the county for the last 4 months, by the way, you said 2 months is not 2, it's 4 months.
Okay.
Came to the office in August. 4 months is a lot of time for you to know what goes up and what goes down. But there's a serious missing link between those people who formulate those policies up there. There are, policies that harmonize what is happening in these.
Are you saying that the kind of criticism from legislators, especially towards county governors, was misplaced?
The buck doesn't exactly stop with the governors per se, because we have a lot of supervisory bodies who are supposed to provide framework that are supposed to be used by these governors. But you see, most of them, the way they are communicated to the county, you see, county is not the governor. We also have ministries, and we have CECs, we have CEOs and other officers. who definitely are supposed to be involved in what is happening up there. If you look at the CRC, for example, SRC, sorry, not CRC, SRC. If you look at the kind of policies they have, and every day they change them and according to what is happening. And then they look down at UHR, and most of the time they speak a different language from the SRC. It either with the speed of implementation, or there is a missing link, or it is assumed that once it's done at the national level, even the people in the county understands. There is need to have a better framework so that we can have synergy in the other county, so that when county number 1 is having a policy they're implementing that relates to the national agenda, then the county number 47 should be speaking the same language. At the moment, the counties are not on the same level in very many things. There seems to be this idea of you may have an advantage because you know someone somewhere will give you information and someone else does not have. They may send information on email, right? And probably somebody in county number 14 may not have received the email, and that's the end of the story. Wow. You know, there need to be some form of supervision to ensure that you do not only send the information, but you also ensure that that information is received and is being implemented. Yes. Yes.
But kimemia, of course, there must be some advantages that you have coming from the civil service, and that's high level, because you oversaw some of this transition, partly. And I'm sure you must have seen some of the loopholes, and I'm sure by the time you were deciding to run for as governor, you were like, I'm going there to fix this. Yes. Is that still the feeling you have?
Partly, but I think the best experience was to make sure that you don't run from your own mistakes. Only a fool learns from his own mistakes. You won't run from the mistakes of others. So I think this conference is supposed to exactly do that. Make sure that we don't learn from our own mistakes, but we kind of leverage on the strengths of those who are there and rectify the mistakes that were done by those who were there before. I think that is purposely the reason why this conference is very good. One of the topics, how to come up with a functional government. To me, that was the most important topic, because you can have governments, you can have either national government or county governments, but that don't work, that don't deliver, where strategies are not there, systems are not working, structures are not working, the people themselves are not fitting in that system. I think coming up with a functional county government, I think that is one of the best things that was taken through here by Ambassador Muthaura, who is an architect of governments, and I think that was very good for particularly governors who have never been in government, who came from private sector. They have into a government that has so many regulations, so many procedures, so many bureaucracies, red tapes. So you need to know how to wade through. For some of us, we may be able to know how to go through it, but I'm not saying that it's going to be easy. But the second issue is the issue of resource mobilization, because we are development partners here, we're also showcasing what they can do, how they can partner with us. There are ministries that also have lots of resources. I think that is also very important here, to know where else can you get money apart from the little money that you get in the county, because I realize most of the monies are not in the county for development. You have to really go out, reach out to partners, reach out to friends, reach out to PSCs, reach out to national government, and see whether you can be able to add the billion you get, maybe get half of it or another billion. At least then you have two. Then you'll be better than the governor who was there before. So I think that's very important for this. Then also bonding and teamwork and working together, as Laboso is saying, and my colleague Njuiki. I think that is also very important, creating synergies and sharing best practice as governors.
And for the very first time, at least, we have 3 governors who are female, and we have one of them. Is it any different now that we have female governors? Previously, the entire team was they were just men. Right now, we have 3: Kitui, Kirinyaga, and Bomet. How different is it?
Okay, I wasn't in the previous government, so
yeah, it was a boys' club.
Yeah, but I keep calling it. It was actually a boys' club, and we thank God for the very transformative voters or electors from the 3 counties that you have mentioned: Bomet, Kirinyaga, and Kitui. And I think, of course, I don't know, as you have said, we are all new, the 3 of us. But maybe you would have, that question would have been best answered by somebody who was there
in your interaction with them. You are 3 women among 40, more than in a team of 40.
45 or 44 male. it must be interesting also. It must be a change. It must be a breath of a fresh air, because it's not it's not any good. They have very many occasions and instances when they can have this men's club, but does not necessarily in the Council of Governors. So I believe that will add value, and I believe that will bring a different perspective. In certain issues, I'm sure you realize that the main difference usually between men's leadership and women's leadership is that you find there is that competitive spirit, so that I'm sure even in the Council of Governors it would be a lot of competition all the time, cutthroat competition to see who is going to be stronger than the other and who is going to remain upstanding after the fight. But the women's perspective, or the lens that you use from the gender perspective, is more of a cooperative one. Yeah, let's talk this through. How can we do it better? So that perspective, I believe.
But it also changes a few things in terms of gender balance, because now, and I know one of the key issues we'll be working on today is probably the election of members of the leadership of the Council of Governors. And of course, there'll be that feeling that now that we have female members of the council, they need positions as well. And therefore, probably some of those positions will have to be reserved for one or two of the female governors. Is that what will happen?
First, let me start by saying that my biology and psychology teacher made it very clear to me, and I actually now see the realization of that and the truth, that there is no male and female brain. At the end of the day, if you had that brain placed on a platter, you realize that you can't tell the difference. So the rest of it is just physiological features. They don't really matter as per se. However, it is the Kenyan and I think the rest of the world who really made people realize is this gender issue, because of the African tradition, and that we even put it in the constitution where we said gender has to have some sort of balance, But looking at the capacity and the capability of my three sisters that we have in the Council of Governors, they ran against men and they beat them thoroughly. And it was not because they had female voters who voted for them. Everybody voted for them. But now on the table, on the Council of Governors, listening even to their contribution and even the way they lobby for positions, in fact, I know that even if we didn't have that idea of having to put aside something for gender, they'll still be able to be competitive enough, at least the ones we have at the moment. But
there's that feeling that of course some seats are being reserved for the female members.
We are not reserving it as a council per se. It's the law, that every time we have a situation where the two genders are available, we make sure they have representation. Like nowadays, I obviously expect that in the top leadership of the Council of Governors elections today, it is obvious that either the chair, if the chair is going to be female gender, then the deputy has to be
That's
male
exactly
gender.
what I'm talking about.
And the vice versa.
Yes.
So naturally, it means that our three colleagues today, one of them will leave here a notch higher than they came, because of that very reason. Because
and the election for the chairman and probably the deputy is going to be the biggest agenda today. The president was here yesterday when he opened the conference officially, but after that I realized he held another, let me call it informal session with governors affiliated to the Jubilee Party, and sources say that that session was basically to actually whip the Jubilee members to vote the Jubilee way. So because Jubilee also among the governors, Jubilee has 30 of the governors out of the 47, and that's a huge number. The same way it enjoys numbers in Parliament, it also enjoys numbers within the council. Are we saying that the presidency still has influence in how the Council of Governors runs its affairs?
No, actually the meeting was not about election of governors. That was not the purpose of that meeting.
Yet that was discussed.
Maybe informally. I think the issue was how to enrich the Jubilee agenda in our CIDPs. I think he is very keen that the 4 pillars that he came up with are embedded in particularly in the Jubilee manifestos, Jubilee CIDPs that are coming up, and also the other CIDPs who I'm sure from the other counties, even though they didn't vote in Jubilee. I think that was basically the issue of the meeting yesterday. It was not about who becomes chairman and who doesn't become, because the president doesn't have to influence who becomes chairman and who doesn't become chairman.
Okay.
I think we are saying COG is not a political party, and it should be stay clear of political issues.
Saying the party divisions will not play out in the election today?
I think governors will make decisions on their own, based on who is best to lead to lead the Council of Governors, and I think that is the best way to go forward, not to check who is from which party. But that will not take us far. But if we remain united as a COG,
yes,
that would be the best.
But the nature of our politics is that we follow party lines. When the president calls Jubilee governors and says, "This is the person I want as chair of the COG. This is the person I want as his deputy or her deputy," definitely governors will listen to the president.
Well, of course, that is our principle. But I want to say, like kimemia has said, I don't think the president came here to come and tell us, who to make chair and who to make vice. I think I'm sure he trusts the Jubilee Brigade enough to know that we will talk as governors, both in a bipartisan way, and see how we are going to apportion those seats. So we want to reduce the politics and see how we can move. Remember, we've also formed some 10-member committee, which is bipartisan, and also I'm sure you have not said that the president also met that team, which was a team that was composed of both members from both Jubilee and NASA, and the whole agenda in that meeting was really about, because I'm a member of that team, the whole agenda was how we can move this country forward, that how we can now be able to reduce the siasa and really concentrate on development. And he really reached out even to the governors from the NASA side, telling them he is very ready for any of them who's willing and wanting to talk development, talk about the things that touch the people that elected us into office. He's very willing and ready to discuss those matters.
My understanding of how the Council of Governors operates is that counties and county governments fund the council. The council does not get funding directly from central government. Yet, if at all the president or any of the parties decide to influence what happens at the Council of Governors, it could be self-defeatist, don't you think?
Well, Fred, first of all, let me say I love my president. However, I would categorically have to state, even on national television, that my president that I love so much would not influence me to do anything that I think would not be right for the survival of the council or survival of the purpose that I'm meant to serve. So insinuating that the president can come here and tell us, I want so and so, I do not want so and so, that would be defeatist in its nature. We cannot agree to something like that for two reasons. One, the Council of Governors is not like Parliament, where you meet every day on regular session and therefore you have audience and you have leaders. Yes. You see, when you take all the seats by a certain party and the others are the leaders, then some of them just become followers. Council of Governors don't have a forum where they meet every day. Yes. You head your own county and you're brought together by COG so that you can actually be able to be coordinated on some of the functions that you share. And there's a lot of that, because even our workers usually have the same HR policies and all that, and we have a regulation so that you find the money, that the salary that is paid in Bomet County for the nurses is the same one that is paid in Tarakanedi and the rest of the world. So we have to stay coordinated. So if we went that route of deciding now we have Jubilee and we'll take all the seats, yes, then what would be the reason for these other governors to be in the council for that reason? Because you cannot be in an outfit where you're just a follower. You need to be part and parcel of decision making and leadership. And that is the reason why whoever has that kind of idea should drop it, because it cannot work.
But that idea is there.
Probably in people's mind. I'll tell you why.
Today we'll be reading, tomorrow morning we'll be reading.
Let me clarify that before you go to
Kimemia. Who is the
Let me clarify that. You know, the spirit of competition does not really stop people from coming from different parties. If we allow democracy in an election and we are not voting according to party lines, and if you find the favorables are all from one party and the other people are happy, including the ones who have not been able to attain position, then you cannot complain about that, because really we are just Council of Governors. But if there's a situation whereby you realize that people are opposing everything that comes from some
The
quarters,
other side.
then there's a problem. Yeah, but it is possible to find people from one party being popularly elected to sit on certain seats, even from number 1 to number 7.
It is a likelihood that the chairman of the Council of Governors by the end of today could be from Jubilee. The deputy chairperson of the COG could also be from Jubilee. It is a very high possibility. Bwana Kimemia.
You know, in an elective process, you can't really say this will be chairman or this will be. They could also be from NASA. I mean, it doesn't, or from the other parties.
Of course, Joseph Nanok, the current chairman,
yes,
is defending his seat as well.
he could also be retained, or he could go. Another one could come. I don't think for now we don't know that we are, people are lobbying. I'm lobbying. Another one is lobbying. Everybody's lobbying for seats, and I know. And I've worked with Nanok for a very long time. I've worked with whoever else wants a seat like njuiki or Joyce for a very long time. So it will depend on what I think, what I feel at that particular moment when we are voting.
Okay.
I personally don't want to be a chairman, but I want to chair one of the committees.
Yes, because there
And
are
I'll
other
be
positions.
lobbying.
There are other positions that
Yes,
are.
and there are 18 committees.
Yes.
So I chose to go for one of the committees that I think could possibly assist this nation in a bigger, including Nyandarua, in a greater way.
Are you going for opposition as well?
Yes, I want to chair one of the committees, but you know that's not up to me. It's got to be voted for, so I don't want to say anything much until when we get to that election. But I think, Fred, the other thing that I think is not also coming out clearly is that it would not be, strange if Jubilee were to take the chair or and the vice, because even currently, the chair is NASA, and so was the deputy, in the last dispensation, and it's not, and everybody,
it still worked.
and it works, and it has worked, So it's not, let's not come out like it would be wrong if Jubilee was to take the chair and the deputy. It's worked very well. We've worked very well, and continue to work very well even with Nanok and Vodia at the time. Of course, now he's in Jubilee, but at the time he was in NASA. Yeah, so it's the council really, I hope that we can continue to work this this bipartisan way and really serve Kenyans equally from that position.
And as we wrap up this discussion, of course, there's been an issue about the health sector, and recently there were headlines about this debate on whether or not cancer treatment should go back to the national government or should remain with the county governments. There's this intergovernmental relations committee. How well is it working, given that we see still the central government trying to take things away? Of course, the health sector has been very problematic, even for county governments for the past 1 year, especially the nurses strike, the doctors strike. Do you feel now that you're running the county that some of these things should go back to central government?
Those are teething problems in devolution, definitely. And the fact that we are now in charge of the health sector in the county, trying to take part of it, you separating cancer from the rest of the health issues may not really be practical, because sometimes even before you have cancer, you may have gone through so many other things, and that will only be aggravating the problem. Unless you tell me the central government or the national government is capable of having cancer units in every sub-county in the county, then it will not be practical to say we'll give you all the other aspects of health, but we take cancer away, because the personnel, the facilities that take care of this are all in the same facilities are shared by the county. So we are not saying that the national government should not really take responsibility of the cancer, but the best thing would have been to support the county governments, give them the capacity in terms of both resources and even the knowledge to be able to deal with this menace, and even work with them until such a time when we have decongestion in the national hospital, like in National Hospital, like we have done with most of those other diseases.
But it means there's still that push and pull between the central government and county governments.
Yes.
What should be retained where, who should do what when?
Yes, and I think that's a very important point. What Governor is saying here. In my view, taking it to the national government will not help much. I think we need a concrete strategy on health, the entire health management issue and the cancer management, because every week, I can assure you, these politicians, we have had to bury people because of cancer. Cancer has now become even worse than HIV. We are burying more people from cancer than from other diseases. So we need a concrete, a very, very strategic approach to the cancer issue and to health issues in this country, so that we can agree. Then do we come up with maybe 10 or 12 strategic regions in the country where everybody can access, still run by county governments and national government, where people can come, they are screened. Everybody, every Kenyan now must be screened. All the 42, 43 million Kenyans must be screened for cancer. And we must introduce this culture of annual and biannual medical checkups. Yes. We have to come up with that, so that we're able to then invest money, put money to target cancer, because it's become a national disaster.
But you do admit that county governments are really struggling when it comes to the health. Probably it will take a few more years before you can fully handle the health issues. Don't you think that probably it makes a bit of sense that central government takes up some of those roles for a bit more time before you can actually settle down?
Fred, I don't think so. You know, if there was any time that it should have happened, you know, it was at the beginning. If they had said, let's keep this for some time, the way, you know, we have like with education, where, you know, they have the personnel and everything. But because there was a decision at the beginning to say all the devolved functions were devolved at once. Now, once you've already devolved it, bringing it, some aspects of it back to the national. I think the neater way to do it is, of course, is to work together and see what is the best strategy. And I think I want to agree with my colleague that if we can identify some centers, you know, across the country that are not too far from, you know, from the electorate, where we can really make them like, you know, cancer centers or something, you know, centers of excellence in the treatment, and, you know, from the management to treatment to you know, what do you call it, screening people and all this kind of thing. I think that would be a better way of looking at it, rather than saying we want to centralize again, you know, the treatment of cancer and the, you know, and the drugs and everything. Let's think through a bit more. Let's not you know, rush into, you know, saying, okay, cancer is becoming a a pandemic across the country and a national disaster, and the best thing, let's centralize it. Let's give a bit more thought to how we are going to analyze.
Back to today's session as we finish up. Bwana Muthomi Njuiki, you mentioned earlier that you'll be facilitating one of the sessions today. What exactly is the main agenda today, apart from the elections, of course?
We have so many things that are happening today, including the election. I'll be one of the discussants I'll be taking people through a discussion on governance. But most important thing, Fred, is that even as we end this induction today, you know, the country has come, yes, today, tomorrow. I agree.
It could end today.
It could be today, tomorrow. But the program is supposed to run up to tomorrow, definitely. We are saying the country has just come out of very grueling elections, which had a repeat, and the temperatures are rising. I have noted with a lot of concern some of the governors who are boycotted. I know the ones who have had apologies. I am not saying that I am a prefect, but some of the governors look like they have boycotted this simply because maybe the president was coming, or they feel they are not part of what is happening in the country.
But I've seen that from both sides of the political divide. Some Jubilee governors are not here, some NASA governors.
There are few governors who have apologies because they have court cases, you know, the petitions and all that. Yeah, I don't know where the others are as per se. However, there is need, because the MPs have done something, the senators have done something. It is critical that as governors, we must bring in the issue of the national coalition, you know, the healing the country. And that is why I'm hoping that even as we do the elections today, we will not live here divided as a nation, because we could be all 47 governments plus the one of national, which is 48 governments, but as one country. That is very critical, because this could be the last one. Because MPs have been there. We know what has happened in the House. The senators are there. But this is an opportunity for us now as governors to show that we are above reproach when it comes to uniting our people, rather than just extending what has been happening on those other levels of politicians. Let's go beyond politics.
Kimemia, final remarks?
I think my final remarks are that we want to go beyond the counties. We have now come up with regional blocks, economic blocks, and we want to focus our people onto economic issues. We have politics for too long, and that is not good for the country. I think the country is beginning to shape up in terms of economics. In terms, if you look at the stock exchange, the shilling is appreciating. We want to also see these economic blocks not becoming ethnic blocks. They become economic blocks that can also share with other blocks across the country, so that if we have potatoes in Nyandarua or in Mount Kenya region, we can send them to coastal region or to northeastern or to Lake Basin, can bring in fish or rice or something. We want to see whether we can bring our people together and also have those cultural exchanges, cross-cultural exchanges, economic exchanges across the country. So this issue of this myth, ethnicity and negative ethnicity and tribalism, we see how we can bury it once and for all. And these governors make a change in this country. I believe governors can help the presidency to unite the country and bring the country together. And it's best when you unite around cultural issues and economic issues. That's how history is made by great leaders.
Wow, very well said.
I think I could not have put it any better. This is the time now we had to put behind us the politics and to move this country forward. And what better way to move this country forward than to focus on development, focus on what we can do for our people to improve their lives. Remember the four points that the president has talked about. Food security across this country. You can grow things in Nyandarua, in Bomet, and take them to northeastern and take them to the areas, to Turkana and areas where they could be having famine. And not just that, so that exchange that we can have using this council of governors, making the governors work together, even conflict resolution. When there are conflicts between communities, I'm sure you saw it happen the other time when governors Nandi and Kericho and Kisumu all met together when there was a conflict. So that's the kind of thing that we want to be doing, to tell Kenyans, no, we don't have to really go in that direction. Your leaders are not fighting each other, but a lot of the times you'll find they are, instigating the people down the line, to fight. So we want to tell them, this is our country, all of us. Nobody's a visitor, nobody's about to go away. Let's live together as one nation.
Thank you so much, Governor Joice Laboso, Bomet County, Governor Muthomi Njuiki, Tharaka-Nithi County, and Governor Francis Kimemia, Nyandarua County, helping us understand what's happening on day 2 of the induction conference of governors and their deputies happening here at Diani Reef Resort in Diani, Kwale County. Remember, this is still Power Breakfast, just happening from a different setting. For now, let's take you back to the Communications Center in Nairobi.